What's up, gang? Back from sabbatical, back from Sri Lanka, back on that video game. It's the summer, it's the season of love. I'm performing a wedding next weekend, and it got me thinking about the 4 things you need to know before you get married, or if you're married, or if you're dating and trying to figure out if you should, or if your marriage is falling apart. Here are 4 things you need to know about marriage. The first thing you need to understand about marriage is that it is exclusive. And I can't believe I even have to say this, but marriage is an exclusive partnership between 2 people for good, through thick and thin, for life, with no escape clause. What this means is if things are going poorly in marriage, you really only have 2 options. 1, you have a terrible rest of your life, be miserable forever, spite and hate each other for the next 30 or 40 years. Not a great option. The other option is you fix it. You put the work in to make the relationship stronger. And this is actually a good thing, because this means you're not walking on eggshells every minute, every day, worried that if the other person gets to know you, they're gonna leave you. To get really practical, this actually means my wife has the freedom to say whether or not she wants me to be friends with someone of the opposite gender. If she's uncomfortable with a friendship I have, she has the right to tell me about that, and I have to honor what she thinks. And if that sounds crazy, it's because it kinda is. But if you're gonna maintain exclusive space with one other person, they need to have an access to you that nobody else gets. The second thing you need to know about marriage is management is sexy. I can hardly say that in a convincing way. Most of marriage is not romance and love and dates and intimacy. Most of marriage is just day-to-day management of your life. Kids and who's got the car and who's cooking dinner and budgeting, even scheduling your bedtime, what time you go to sleep so that you go to sleep at the same time and not at radically different times. All of this is part of managing your marriage. And I know that there's nothing romantic sounding about any of that, but this is just the way the world is. I talked to someone a while ago and they said, I feel like my wife and I are just business partners. And it's like, yeah, you kind of are. You're in the business of building one life out of 2, and that's just gonna require syncing your Google, and that's gonna require you syncing your Google calendars. I've got these friends that own a coffee shop, and they said most of owning a coffee shop is scheduling your staff and doing emails. Very little of running a coffee shop is actually making coffee. What's important to remember is that the management is the marriage. It's not some other thing you have to do to get to your marriage. It's making one life out of 2 separate lives. And then yes, sometimes if you schedule it all right, you even get a little bit of sexy time. The third thing you need to know about marriage is communication, communication, communication. If you don't have solid communication, everything will fall apart, because the best business partners know how to communicate together. Communication is really about understanding your expectations. Expectations typically come down to 2 things. Is your expectation of your spouse realistic or unrealistic? And is it communicated or uncommunicated? And this is really the key part. Have you told the other person exactly what you need? Here's an example. In the last 6.5 years, my wife has never once said anything bad about me in front of other people. And it's not because I haven't done anything stupid. I say and do stupid all the time. But it's because 6 months into our marriage, she one time made one comment about something dumb I did in front of our friends. And I just got so embarrassed. And I went up to her and I just said, I need you to understand, I am too insecure of a person for you to ever say anything negative about me in front of anyone else. So I need you to never say anything embarrassing or mean about me ever in front of anyone. Yeah, and sometimes it's like we think, well, my spouse should just know this. They should just know what I need. They don't, because they're stupid. And you're stupid. They're just as stupid as you are. There's a nice romantic way to put that. So we need to make our needs known, and we need to make them realistic. That's been our agreement. When we're out with other people, you will never hear my wife say anything negative about me. Now, mind you, that's just when we're out in public. Like when we're home, I can take it, let me have it. Just when we're around other people, my fragile ego can't handle it. And she does the same thing for me. She literally sometimes says to me, can I have a compliment? Like, can you just give me a compliment about something in my life right now because I need it? And you might be feeling like, that's not very romantic. No, of course it's not romantic. We're not talking about romance, we're talking about marriage. You and your spouse are just two idiots trying to form a life together. And so don't expect anything from them until you've communicated what you need. Finally, it might be helpful to remember what the point of marriage is. Because as much as marriage can make you happy, and it might make you happy, it's not really about you. It's about you and another person coming together so that you can build a world together. And the world that you build, if you really do it right, will be able to hold life. That life might be children that you bring into your world, but it might be friendships, it might be other family members, it might be your neighborhood and your community. When you build a life together, you build a world that others can come and inhabit, and in that space, they also can find life. My wife and I got married when we were 20 years old, and it definitely should have been like a disaster, but it has been great. It's been an amazing 10 years. But what we found over those 10 years is that we have no identity separate from the other. And I mean, that sounds bad, but in a real way, after 10 years, we're not our own individual people. Everything I like, everything I do, all of my hobbies have in some way been touched by her. All of my friends, all of my relationships, our child, all of it's tied into one world. It's like a cocktail. You have all these ingredients that have come together, and once they're mixed, you can't separate them. We have been able to, over 10 years, build a cocktail of awesomeness that has all of its own faults and weaknesses, just like any couple. But the life that we've built, this world that we've built together, it brings life to my wife and I, sure, but it spills over into all sorts of other places, and it brings life there as well. Look, if you're married, you know this, and if you're about to get married, you're about to find out that marriage is difficult. It's hard work, but if you do it right, if you guard your exclusive space together, if you manage it well, if you communicate with one another, you will find it also is the most rewarding and satisfying relationship you can possibly have. You might find yourself and this other person building a world together that not only gives you life, but spills out to other people around you. And that is a world worth building. So what do you think? What's the best marriage advice that you've been given? Comment down below. If you're getting married this summer, congratulations. Comment below with your thoughts and your feedback on this video, and maybe the best advice that someone's given you as you walk towards marriage.